What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to the Chariot Friends. Justin here, and how you feeling? The moon is in Pisces. And you know what? I was thinking about, Pisces always gets a lot talking about their spirituality and how sensitive they are to the energies and cosmic dimensions and things like that. And that is very Piscean. But I really wanted to kind of think about the expansive qualities of Pisces, because they are traditionally ruled by Jupiter. And I think you can forget how you can expand emotionally and how that mutable water, how changing that is of Pisces. It's just I got a lot of energies that are just kind of flooding in here, and I think that's what some things we're going to get into today. But before we jump into that pool, if you're new here, again, my name is Justin. You know that when you're coming across this video, you're in sync with the moon, and who doesn't love that? But this is also a place for you if you happen to have Cancer in your placements, Sun, Moon, Rising, maybe Jupiter, wherever. This is for you. If you just want to, we all got Cancer placements in our chart. We all have moon placements. So knowing what the moon and what lunar shenanigans are going on are beneficial for everyone. So all are welcome here. And I do tarot card spreads based on that lovely luminary, the good old moon. And I talk about she's been rising kind of late here lately, so I haven't been able to see her. I'm like, Luna, you coming up past my bedtime. I talk about what sign it's in, what phase it's in, and when it's going void. Of course, just all those lunar shenanigans. I just dream about her. And just so you're all aware, this is a general reading, not a one-to-one. So take what fits into your story, discard the rest, and everything will be dope. Now, let's jump into it. Yeah, let's really get into the cosmic waters of Pisces. I do enjoy a moon in Pisces. I know and have met quite a few moons in Pisces here as of late, so that's just interesting in itself. But depending on when you're watching this for into the lunar shenanigans, Happy Mars Day. Mars is associated with Tuesdays. And these I find, you know what? I always talk about how energetic these days are, like great for working out, moving the body, things like that, of course. But I found like people are the one on Mars days. This is one where be mindful of being combative, because Mars days are the one. You and everybody else are ready. So that's just something I think to be mindful of. Well, how you channel any sort of like aggressive energy that may come up, especially here, because when this is coming out now, Mars will have been comfortably getting settled into. Well, hopefully, it had an interesting start in there, getting into Leo, but now we're getting settled into that Mars and Leo energy. So just something to be mindful of there. Mars again can run a bit hot and a bit dry. So I would say even for Mars days, if you do happen to do a lot of activity or notice even during like a Mars hours you've been like pushing a lot, just check for like, oh, when's the last time I hydrated? When's the last time I hydrated? I think I'm alright right now. But just some things to just do some body checks. But also, what I like doing is thinking about my relationship with Mars. Especially, I have a day chart, so Mars is a little bit trickier to work with sometimes. But yeah, I think about just like not just like my placement as far as like where I have Mars natally, what house and what sign, but also how do I deal with Mars transits, both like Mars transiting to my sign and aspects done to my Mars placements. The Sun just actually did one, just did it's kind of separating from Mars right now, and Mercury will be eventually going there. And I'm actually going to be going through a Mars return here soon. I have Mars at 25 degrees and 43 minutes of Leo. So that's going to be something that I think about. And that's another thing, like I've been keeping track of like different return charts. And that's a very fascinating kind of study to think about how I'm moving kind of energetic, where the energies are getting focused on and things along those lines. So, and actually, I'm going to pause just one moment. I got to check my battery. All right, we're back. Yeah, you just had to do some rearranging there. But yes, that's basically what I utilize Mars as for. We ain't got to focus anymore on Mars. Let's get into the lunar shenanigans, because on the 22nd of April, the moon is going to enter into Pisces at about 10:06 p.m. and that's going to be Pacific time, and we're moving into the waning crescent phase. And this is I enjoy this phase. Fun little fact. I was born during a waning crescent, and there's something I think that this is where the moon is really starting to get quiet, where we're just kind of reflecting on what's happened during this period of time. And I think that's a great energy to do in Pisces. Like, how do I really feel that I've grown? Because we still do have Venus that's in Pisces, Saturn's in Pisces, the North Node is in Pisces, and all opposing that South Node energy just by whole sign even, but some by actual aspects. But we're thinking about where we're going, in Pisces, and how we're growing. And, how do you feel you're expanding? Because we are growing very intuitively, very spiritually, just like with this Pisces energy. Because Pisces, like I said, is traditionally ruled by Big Papa Jupiter, and they're the mutable water sign, and they're receptive or yin in nature. And so Pisces, there is this ability to sense the undercurrents of things, the what goes on, because Pisces, the water signs, your Cancer kind of hovers between the land and the water. Scorpio just carries its water in a backpack. But Pisces is the only one that's just fully submerged in the water all the time, and it's just, it gets, I think if you don't ask yourself those bigger questions, that what's actually happening in the background, you can miss a lot of the subtle things, like the changes in the air, the feeling, the sensations of the seasons, the noticing when the times, it's just something very expansive to that can maybe be a little overwhelming sometimes. Even, I think with Pisces, where we start sensing each other more energetically and getting linked up. I had a moment where I was, where I had an experience where I was, really starting to get into like dream work and things, and my dreams have been really active, and I had a dream about someone, and it was a very strange dream, and I brought it up, and they were like, "That's so weird that you say that, because I was going through such and such and such." And so, those sort of things where we really are linked on a cosmic level. There's a oneness to this whole thing, and not just by people, but to everything around you that's going on. And I just think with everything that is going on around you and things like that, that can be overwhelming, and we need to take a moment and get still and see what's going on within us, how we've processed all of these things, and what is going to be our intention going forward with this information, with these new sensations that have been exposed to us now. Because it's like, once you get a feeling, like, that's it, you're in it now. Once you jump in, you can't take that water. I mean, you can dry off, but it's wet now. So yeah, that's just something to think about. And I think too, to just really take in being more present, and especially when you're taking in like first experiences, really revel in that, because it won't be the same. Not to say that it's not, you can be, where you won't like it anymore, but it's not the same. So, and I think that it's both for new experiences when there's just I got a lot of thoughts with that, but I think you get the gist of what I'm going through here. But yeah, just some things that I think we're feeling through, and I think that this is a great time to just kind of tune in intuitively. Because let's go ahead and like always, but let's get into your general energy of the day, which is hexagram 40, which is about letting loose. And you got changing lines 2 and 4. So I have a link down in the description box if you want to check out this website. This is where I get the kanji from. But I just should probably actually look at that website a little bit more. But I did check to make sure that some of the, that the lines were like lining up for the most part. So there might be some slight differences in translations, but they all kind of cover that same general sort of theme there. So definitely check that out and meditate on this thing. And if you want to know what I'm looking from, personally, I think I might need to put a link down there for that book, but it's I-Ching the Oracle by Kirsten Huang. Well, let's get into your general energy, because the first one's really cool. I like this. Speaking of abundance, it talks about getting 3 foxes in the hunt, finding a yellow arrowhead, good omen. And this to me is, again, there's something about the Piscean energy. I think the intuitive energies of the waters, because the water is like that kind of psychic, intuitive, emotional energy, sensing when something is right to make a move. Like, oh, like, I don't know. It's like it's when you pay attention to certain signs, you can be in the right place in the right time and not just by accident, is what I'm getting here. This is like, when you maybe happen to overhear a conversation about, oh, so, such and such is going to be in town and they do this. And I'm like, oh, that would actually help me expand this. Hey, can you tell me a little bit more about blah, 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 blah? Like, there's, even though like Pisces is a receptive energy, they may not move like maybe a fire sign or an air sign would move, but they still are doing moves. It's just it's subtle moves again that's happening here. So I would say pay attention to any sort of like opportunities that come up, because I don't think they're going to be in your face. It's going to be something where you happen to overhear, maybe something on the radio or during like a podcast, or maybe just happen to click on something by accident and it takes you to, that's how I found out when I was trying to, getting my debts and things in order. I've been I wasn't really looking for anything. I clicked on something, and the next thing I know, next thing I know, everything's getting taken care of. So it was like, those sort of intuitive nudges that come up there, I think can really lead to some good omens. So really trust your intuition. Like, it's learning to trust that intuition. I think that Pisces, it's more than just like a blind faith. It's an inner knowing where like, oh, okay, this is taking me somewhere. This is going to lead to something grander, no matter how small this thing may seem there. So yeah, just pay attention to those signs and any sort of like synchronicities and things like that. Now, this next one is very, very interesting there, and I think it kind of adds to the maybe sort of like the porousness or the boundlessness. It's the kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Lack of, I guess, boundaries for maybe Pisces, or that they get associated with. Because the fourth line talks about the net you set was loosened. Punish your friends when they come. And so, if you, this to me, for one maybe kind of literal example, let's say if you left someone in charge or something, you had something in order, and then you delegated this to someone, and then they happened to drop the ball in some sort of way. I think that is, if you want to maybe like let it slide or whatever this is, I think that there's something about making sure to be a bit more stern in this delivery, not being afraid to be, not necessarily be the bad guy, but be someone who's more firm, where it's just like, hey, like, I can't have you doing this thing. If this is too much responsibility, I could give this to someone else if you want to. Maybe if this is like you've maybe recently promoted someone, for just for an example, and then it's just like, hey, if you want, you have this option here. That might be something that comes up, because maybe there is something that's going on with life. You never know with people, but creating that door could be something that's very, that Piscean energy can do. And just kind of looking at this hexagram, I don't know if I mentioned this is thunder over water, but if you look at the changing lines, they would change to just all earth energy, which is just very receptive. So I think that there's something here where you can be stern, but have your message be understood, especially with the kind of strong sort of emphasis on Pisces, with Venus being here, Saturn being here, things like that. Now, I would just look to see where, again, with those boundaries, where maybe we've been a little loose on things, especially if we've been, because it's not anyone else's job really to uphold our boundaries other than us. And if someone is doing something that isn't working for you, then enforcing that, whatever that looks like, that if you know what I mean. And I think even too, if you find yourself compromising your own things, like, I'm going to do this thing, but then you make, it kind of reminded me of how I've made friends with bad spirit, because I have the sun in the 12th house. And because I tell you, sometimes it'd be just like, oh, Justin, come on, what, but just this once. It's not that serious. Like, you got eyes on it. It's fine. It's just like, stop it. So I think that there's something there where it's like being firm with yourself. And the punishment can be playful too. This is a friend we're talking about. But I do think here that there's something is needing to be maybe kind of tightened up a little bit, just like, but this, again, it doesn't have to be like like necessarily either a friend, either it could be like a family member, a romantic partner, or something, where we're just like, just setting a new standard possibly here. You're noticing these signs, you're noticing maybe these changes that have been coming up, these good omens, and you're just trying to keep that energy going, and you can't, if you're trying to be, not regress, you're going to have to keep that, yeah, keep that net tight. So that's just some energies that are coming up here, but we'll find out maybe a little bit more here in the, well, I would hope a little bit more here in the tarot. But before we jump into that, just a couple of things here. These readings that I do, they're not gender specific readings, so apply these energies to people as they make sense for your situations. And I'm going to be talking about different topics, like from money matters to medical advice to legal things, but they're by no means any replacements for any sort of professional advice. Talk to your lawyers, your doctors, energy healers, financial advisors, things along those lines. So, but let's get into your, oh, and I'm going to get, considering that you got changing lines for line 2 and line 4, I'm going to get clarifiers for card 2 and card 4 there. Just a little extra goodies. But let's get into your first card here, which talks about any sort of like short-term money matters. And when I think money matters too, I think about where you're spending your time as well. But let's see what's going on there. Oh, interesting. All right, so you got the 7 of Cups here. And, you know, this doesn't have to be necessarily like a tricky sort of area. You know, the 7 of Cups. Well, let me talk about what I got first. This to me is thinking about like new options, maybe kind of coming up here is like where you can invest your time, or maybe even where you can invest your money. Maybe you're getting like this intuitive nudge to invest in this, like maybe you're exploring stocks, maybe you're exploring, maybe doing like maybe some sort of like property, and you're thinking about location. You know, there's like, this to me is just giving a lot of options, seeing how you feel about maybe a place there, maybe even going to schedule some visits or some like short trips and things along those lines. It may need to put down some money to just get an understanding about how a place is during a certain season, and then as you narrow some things down, like it's like maybe just going to visit the place at first, or maybe talking with people who have visited the place, and then kind of narrowing it down from there, and then seeing a place in, if it has different seasons, going there during like a winter season, during a summer season, during spring, fall, all that good stuff there. That's just something that's coming up with the 7 of Cups. But I would say though that I am getting to this energy of maybe just like money, maybe going a bunch of different places, or maybe feeling like your resources are going in there, like there's not enough maybe time, or maybe even again not enough money in the bank, and it just may be a time to kind of reevaluate where there's been maybe some impulsive spending, some just like ooh, just looking at all the things, or maybe even like a fear of missing out, possibly, where you get sort of like involved in some sort of like caught up in like clickbait or anything along those lines, where it's just like, gotta have this thing, you see it, I'm like, ooh, that'd be useful, and then you don't end up using it, just like collecting dust. I did one of those I did a purchase not too long ago, and it's, you just kind of like, you just end up letting that go. It's fine. It's a good omen, because you learn something. So that's just an energy that's coming through there as well. I like that. Now let's get into your second card here, which talks about any sort of like medical matters or things along those lines. Ooh, look at that. Now this is interesting, and I'm glad we're getting clarified on it, because you got the Judgment card here, and this to me, this is can be elemental fire, that the Judgment card is whipping up, and this rabbit's getting out of Dodge. Something an epiphany's happened, a realization that something maybe is needing to change, or maybe there could be something where we're misconstruing an intuitive nudge or something along those lines. There's a need, before we jump into something, before we get lost in the fantasy, maybe even with this 7 of Cups here, just think about how that's going to affect you maybe long term. I'm thinking more kind of like on the anxiety things and things along those lines. But I am getting something here too about not ignoring a situation there. Like, the 7 of Cups could be maybe a little distracted here, and you maybe having like band-aid solutions for like something that's more serious there, using I'm not sure if this story is gonna like quite fit into what I'm trying to say, but this is what I'm getting kind of pushed to. It's it reminds me of I had a incident like years ago where I tripped on something in a hall and I got like this small little gash. It was a gash enough to it kind of cut my face a little bit, and I at the time there was a lot going on, and I went to my remedy at the time because I couldn't find any band-aids was to put some tissue and some electric tape on it and just kind of call it a day. And I think that it's where my thing was. It was minor. It wasn't a big deal. Left a small little scar and then end up healing. But I think that there's just something there. Like if you're getting a warning sign that something is getting out of hand, because that was a signal for something kind of bigger that was going on later down the line that I need to deal with. But yeah, just something I think that's there. Let's get a clarifier, kind of get a clarifier on that to get some details with that. Or you know what? This sort of reminds me. Okay, here's a better story, where where there was something that was kind of coming up, and it was just like, could it be serious? Maybe. And it was one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm gonna keep eyes on it for, and if it's not, if I don't notice any sort of improvement in the next couple of days, then we're gonna have to do something about it. So that's the kind of energy where it's like you don't want to scare yourself, but I think that it's something where you want to be real as well, to not get caught up trying in like an illusion or something like that. That seems, yeah, that feels better. But you got the Six of Cups here. And I think that the sooner that you maybe deal with something, that the sooner that you can put something behind you, the better that this will feel, down the line. You may have to deal with some initial maybe discomfort, but things will get centered. Because otherwise, you'll be looking at, man, I wish I would have done this sooner, or I wish I would have taken care of this sooner. Because the Six of Cups can be up, you can bring up like a past sort of energy, but that's what I'm more so getting it as like I really maybe could have done this a lot sooner than later, and then maybe I'd be more enjoying myself now as opposed to having prolonged that some. So that's just something here. But I do think that there's even to this energy of if you make a certain change, like and it doesn't feel like an immediate maybe sort of thing, but just like small sort of lifestyle changes could lead to a more pleasurable present, with the six. Because this is a really lovely card, the Six of Cups, and then the thought that I like. Then, well, this is not, never mind. But I and it just gives me to where like you can look back and think like, man, this is like how much you've improved on something since then. So that's just another energy that's kind of coming up there. Now let's get to your third card, which talks about any sort of like legal matters or social affairs, things like social situations, things like that. I'm with it. So you got the Ace of Coins here, and I think that this could be a great time because this is, the aces are the roots of of any energy, and this is the root of matter, of the physical when we're talking about with the coins here. And this could be where you're maybe starting up a new sort of relationship here. And that might be something that was happening with this Judgment card here. Maybe you realize that maybe you've been feeling a bit, maybe there was one thing of kind of isolating, but now you may be feeling a little loneliness, and it's like, yeah, this could be a time where I can get out there and different options that are available, different ways of connecting with people. That could be something that's coming up. I do think that there could be, though, there's a little trickiness I'm kind of getting with this, where if there's some sort of legal thing that's coming up, it depends on, of course, the context of the legal thing, but something maybe could be getting with that. Maybe we're not quite sure. I'm getting kind of an inheritance energy that's coming through there, or as far as like just take that if that resonates. But it's like the Seven of Cups. Something's tying that to like who's getting chosen for that. Like that's very very kind of interesting energy. I think I'll leave that. I think I'll leave that there. But let's get into your fourth card here, which talks about any sort of like marriage matters or any sort of like relationship situations. Interesting. All right, so you got the Nine of Wands here. And I think that there's something where the Nine of Wands can, sometimes gives this sort of defensive energy where you've may have felt like kind of on guard. It is giving me kind of like an on guard sort of feeling that things may have been kind of tense. It's been the situation, and maybe not necessarily at each other, but things have been just on edge, and just trying to, maybe you have someone who's been processing a situation, and we're just trying to walk our way around this sort of mess here, or something along those lines. It's like, this is the moon in Sagittarius, and sometimes I think that can translate to really big emotions sometimes, kind of like emotional sort of outburst. In a sense, there's what I'm kind of getting with that. There need to kind of helping to keep things in balance here. But let me get a little clarifier with that Nine of Wands here. All right, so I got the Princess of Disc here. And you know what? That's interesting. This may be something. I've gotten something a little more innocuous now with this. This could be like maybe literally someone's just like feel would be maybe they're pregnant and go just like the emotions are just maybe just a little more active than what it is, because it's like there's a whole human growing. So so that might just be where, and that might even be something too. Maybe this defensiveness is feeling that the family is expanding, and so maybe there is just like some sort of anxieties that comes with that, or maybe there's just like a recent change that's been happening. Maybe you made some sort of investment together. Maybe you're thinking about you got a home, but now with the home you have to take care of everything, of all the stuff there, and that brings about a whole different level how we're going to process this and wobble bumps, and so that's something that's even kind of coming through there. That might be just the energy's just been feeling a bit strained as of late, but it's just like, and this could be maybe you just got done, maybe rearranging some sort of things. So yeah, take that how that resonates there, but I am getting just sort of like just kind of looking at the cards as a whole here. I am getting this energy too of just like again some sort of like opportunity that's getting ready, that could potentially happen here. Something that can, yeah, something that can alleviate some sort of stress maybe, or something along those lines. There, I'm not, again, apply that as you that makes sense for you. Now let's get into your next card, which talks about any sort of like immediately pressing affairs at the moment. So let's see what's going on there. So you got the Queen of Cups here, and that's very, the Queen of Cups. She's of the court card. She's the wateriest, the wateriest part of water, and if there has been maybe just like a lot going on, especially when we were talking about like that net being loosened, maybe there's been a lot of emotions that have been coming through that you've been needing to process, whether it's both your own and maybe it's others sort of maybe just kind of coming up there, and it's just starting to, this to me almost like this Nine of Wands here almost feels like that the stress is even maybe starting to become a bit palpable here, and it's just like, let's kind of like cleanse this energy out a little bit. Let's manipulate the energy energies a bit differently. Because otherwise, you know, I was meditating on that about that. I got in the Queen of Cups a little bit not too long ago, and the thoughts of emotional manipulation and how you can manipulate people with emotions, but also the ability to manipulate emotions when the Queen of Cups is healing, to be able to take something that like maybe like frustration or anger or depression and things, and to be able to really feel through those and get to the roots of them to get some healing that's needing to be done there. So this might be a time to just like, you know, the Queen of Cups is a self-care sort of card to tend to the waters, to especially again while we're talking about this energies in Pisces. If you've been noticing a lot of growth, a lot of expansion there, you got to take time to flush that energy out there, allow things to to process there, to allow that subternal or that subternal that internal energies to just kind of settle in there as you expand internally, you know. That's very interesting. Now let's get to your last card, which talks about the destiny or the karma of the situation. Nice. With that in. Give me one moment. I just want to check something here. Okay, dope. Oop. Okay, there we go. I'm with it. We're still so tech savvy. So you got the Sun card here. And, you know, I think that with this, you know, here's your three foxes. Here's your yellow arrowhead. I think the Sun's a great representation of a yellow arrowhead. But I do think that there is something that's coming up through this. Even if you have been maybe going through a bit of a rough patch, maybe things have been a little tense. Again, we just got to apply some healing waters there, and then, you know, just maybe bring some warmth and shine some light on the situation, and allow the transformation to go, you know, as let it be as, you know, sometimes it's messy, just thinking about how the worm turns into a butterfly, but once it's done, it's elegant. You know, it's fresh, you got fresh wings, you know, just like get fresh air, everything's fresh. So that's what I'm really getting here, you know, whatever sort of maybe guidance that you were looking for here, I think ends in a sort of positive standpoint. So that's just something to think about there. I like that. Now let's get some advice from Big Papa. Interesting. That's interesting. So you got the 5 of coins here, and let's go ahead and switch back over. Because, you know, I think with the 5 of coins, we can get so caught up in like the worry, the stress of things, you know, we get the fortune one minute and then things go out the next. And I think that this 5 of coins here is to instead of getting caught up maybe in the fears and the worries and the anxiety of things, just like getting a bit more grounded in the present, where just like, okay, these are the things that I'm feeling, so this is how, those are kind of like warning signs. Like I can change this if that future hasn't manifested yet, so, and I can still steer this ship in this direction here, is what that kind of 5 of coins is giving me, that not all is lost. But if there's like, you know, I think with the 5 of coins, sometimes it can feel like something is lost, or that, you know, maybe there's a fear that it won't work out, or that, like as you spent, or that the ground will collapse or something here. Just looking at how this 5 of coins is like some sort of like landslide that just happened. But yeah, I think if we worry about those things, then that's what we attract. But we can, you know, let's focus on the things that we can control, I think is what this energy is giving. But yeah, I think that's all I got for you there. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm just like I'm checking my battery here. It's showing that it's really low, so I'm just like, I don't want this to cut out here. But yeah, I think that's all I got for you there. But if you like that, if anything resonated with you, give it a thumbs up. And share this if you know somebody who can get some nuggets of wisdom from this. And then subscribe there, Queen of Cups, you son. Hit that bell button to get notified on all these videos each day. And then I'm going to get your surprise card or cards here. But if you want to know what's going on with the other celestial bodies, the sun and the rest, then over at my other channel, Alchemist 8, I do weekly videos that come out every Mercury day. That's a Wednesday, that just talk about where the planets are transiting, so you know where to check in what houses are going to be, house or houses are being activated for you, and how to work with those energies, just as practically as we can there. And then I also have these videos, a series that I'm doing, talking about different celestial bodies in different signs in different houses. So I have those all set up as playlists there, so you can definitely check that out. But yeah, that's news on that one. So let's go ahead and get your cards, because you got quite a few cards here. Oh, interesting. Huh. I'm with it. So you got the sound card. You got the vision card, and then we got that protection again. And you know what? I think that there's something with that protect. I think it's, being mindful of what you're telling yourself at that time, because that 5 of coins is what's kind of ringing through there. Be mindful of what you're telling yourself, of the things that you're envisioning, the things, be mindful where your mind goes. And that might be something too, where you might be dealing with, maybe you're working with someone, or dealing with someone who's like, as far as like maybe in close proximity, who might be going through some things, so maybe been kind of draining the energies, kind of not dimming the view, I think necessarily on purpose, but they have been maybe going through some processing, through some rough things, and you may need to tighten that net up a little bit. Just be like, hey, I got to protect my energies. I can't let this affect my abundance, my 3 foxes and a yellow arrowhead. It's good omens are coming for us all. They come at different phases, you know what I mean? And so that's where I really kind of think that this thing is in the letting loose, is maybe even letting loose of like that responsibility that you have to keep everybody up. I think the Queen of Cups can give a lot of herself sometimes too. And I'm even getting with her, that's even interesting, like that energy of like needing to feel needed. So I would even, that might even be something to just kind of look into there. But I do see, especially with that sun lightens things up, this realization that, maybe that things maybe aren't as bad as maybe even like your social group or whatever it may sound, but or it even, and if it is, I think that there are things that we can do about it. It's just that that's an energy that I think is coming through there too. All right, I think that's all I got for you there. So until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep eyes on that moon. She's all over the place. And I will catch you. Oh, when am I going to catch you? On the next one, Venus Day.